Justin, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Truckin Genius. What we do with this program is really try to figure out this industry and driver recruiting specifically. So thank you for coming today and spending time with us. What I'm interested in to talk about really initially is your background and how you came to TransForce and into the position you are today. But to begin, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your path to TransForce and into trucking?
Sure. So it all started, I did 10 years in the Army. I was a combat engineer and I specialized in demolitions. So that took me nowhere in the regular world. I had no skills outside of the Army and being a good troop and doing as I told when I'm told to do it. But when I was exiting out of Fort Hood in Texas, I was going through the exit building, the transition services, and I was walking through and I had bumped into a table, knocked it over, pamphlets on the floor, made it a whole embarrassment of myself because I was probably looking at my phone, whatever. And I bent over to pick up the pamphlets and tell the lady that I was so sorry and I apologize. And it was this big old banner just like this one that says, it's $85,000 a year, your first year. Me, I've got a bachelor's degree in military history that means nothing without a master's. I did demo, so nobody's going to pay me to do that in the regular world. And didn't need a degree to be a truck driver. So I was like, you know what, let's give this a go.
So you had no experience prior to that. This was the first
nothing bigger than a Humvee
thought into trucking.
Nothing
Very
bigger
cool.
than a Humvee in my personal life, like whatsoever. And I got a wife and 4 kids
At the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had 4 kids before I was 25. So I was like, ooh, this is like, I can't not land on my feet on my exit. I've made this decision. I'm being medically retired. I got wounded in combat and I was like, I got to land on my feet regardless of the VA help, regardless of these things. At 30 years old, I need to do something, not only for myself, but for society.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is a little bit.
You're in a situation, you're transitioning to a new career. And I've been through a very similar transition, not to the same extent in a different world, but it's not easy to think about because there is pressure when you do have a wife and a family. And, it's expected of you to get that next position and to continue to tribute and support both your family and to society. So how did that go?
Well, I went through our school at Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia, and I went through the program in 30 days and I did my 180-hour course. I went through all the recruiting events. I got to sit and talk to all our partners across the country, all our over-the-road locals, the regionals. I got to talk to everybody, take it all in, and then take all those ideas and those pamphlets and all those questionnaires back to my wife, the boss, and say, okay, of these things, what is okay for me to go do? Because I just did 10 years in the Army. I did 4 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. So I'd been gone for years, intermittently gone for years. And now I'm going to be an over-the-road truck driver for weeks on end for a couple of days at home. But for the right price, you'd do a lot of things, especially if it puts food on the table and smiles on the kids' faces. So it was really good. And so I laid that all out and I went to a company that was a partner at the time, Rail Transportation, and over the road I went. And I absolutely loved it.
Really?
I loved it. I was head over heels in love with being in the truck, creating my own schedule with a little bit of variation for appointments. But being on the road, living life through the windshield, I loved it.
How long were you doing the over-the-road routes?
I did over the road purely for 2 years. And then I stepped back and did some regional. And then I eventually landed a job with Walmart doing local and through Georgia and Alabama.
Why did you transition to those roles?
With seniority came higher pay. So I was able to make the similar amount of money without being gone so often. And my kids were in school. I was missing baseball practices. I was missing these things that a lot of truck drivers miss every day. And I'd already been missing it for a long time before that. So as the opportunity for seniority opened up and I could take these roles and these positions, I took advantage of it.
Let's talk about the over-the-road experience because a lot of what we focus on at TransForce is the quality of the job. And we really focus on the driver and making sure that the driver's in the right position for them. Over the road, we talk to a lot of drivers internally and externally. That is not the most attractive position, but you enjoyed it so much. What were some of the things that you did enjoy about being out on the road?
I liked creating like my own environment, my own lifestyle. My truck was my home while I was on the road. I created, when I ate, and I was a creature of habit. The Army instilled these things. I ate 3 times a day. I slept for X amount of hours. I was working X amount of hours. I did these things. And so I was able to create it with my own twist, my own, what I wanted to do. And that's what kept it. I gained a little bit of freedom. I gained a little bit of freedom that now Uncle Sam isn't telling me. I'm choosing to do it, but I got these guidelines that I learned along the way. So I was able to time manage. I was able to do my own organization. And I got 4 kids. So getting away from that wasn't terrible. It's just the duration of time was often
that age. They were very busy.
And they're all 2 years apart. So, 7, 9, 11, 12 at the time, or, whatever it had been. It was a lot, thankful for my wife. But
so what led you to come off the road?
The kids. Yeah. The wife, Monday through Thursday, life is hell. But on Friday, when that paycheck hit, everything's good again, right? Bills got paid, meals got bought. But I, missing T-ball and missing these things, these milestones that I told myself I wouldn't do. I got out of the Army for not only medically, but for personal reasons as well. I could have fought, I could have did this, I could have stayed in a little longer probably. But it was time to take some that work-life balance and put it into my own favor.
So there was another transition from being in the truck to being out of the truck, but staying in the industry. So talk to me about that transition and how it was enabled, and you obviously decided to take the opportunity.
So I'm always somebody who asks questions. Like when I was out on the road, I would be at a truck stop. I'd be waiting on a shower, be waiting on food, whatever it may be, and say, hey, who do you work for and what do you do? How do you like it? How do you treat it? Because the driver's going to give you the real scoop. You talk to a recruiter and you're going to get the lifestyle that a general driver gets. But I want to know what you're doing. You're here at this truck stop with me. How is your life? And so I asked questions. And I learned along the way, different companies that, there was a habit. Drivers would say the same thing about their company, good or bad, but it wasn't like random. This is good. This is bad. They were saying, I don't like this. Repeated drivers would say, I don't like this, the same thing. So I said, well, okay, let me stay away from that as I'm looking or because everybody's always chasing another cent per mile. And that's just the way of life. So I would pay attention to these things. I would ask the same company drivers the same questions repeatedly so I can see, well, this is a pattern of awesomeness or not so great. And that's when I made moves, and eventually something fell in my lap, which was Walmart. And everybody knows about Walmart. And it's one of the very few salary jobs you can get in the truck industry as a driver. They take care of it. It's a great place to be. And so I did that. I went and I worked for a Walmart distribution, and it was great. And I talked to a bunch of Walmart drivers. Most of them were leased on by somebody else, but they talked about how well Walmart treated them when they were on their property, when they were checking in, checking out the warehouses, how happy those people felt and put off to them that this is just a good job. So I wanted to be a part of that in this industry, but a part of something that, everybody's genuinely has a good disposition. So it was important to land somewhere like that.
So you got out of the truck. What was your first job other than driving?
I actually went and become a CDL instructor for our school. So I pestered the owner at the time, Al Hanley, yes. And I sent him an email every 30 days, the same copy and pasted email every 30 days saying, hey, I hope you haven't forgot about me, but I'd like an opportunity to be an instructor at Fort Benning. I want to train troops to transition into this industry, into this world, and make sure they're taken care of at foremost, the troop is taken care of.
That's very cool. Before we continue with you, can you talk a little bit about that program? I think we all feel passionate about that within TransForce, but you being on the ground floor and experiencing that and having it mean so much to you, talk a little bit more about that program and what it means.
I think it's awesome. It's at the height of it, it's a 180-hour program that it's so in depth. It's 2 weeks in the classroom where you get all the hands-on and ideas and the reasons why, and theoretically how, and you get these in-depth videos, and you get true training from individuals who have been there. It's not somebody who took a course and then stepped into a classroom to teach as a teacher. It is a truck driver bestowing a trade and a skill and a craft onto you for 30 days of intense 12-hour days every day, day in and day out. So I got to spend 2 weeks in the classroom where we learned everything from how to shift on paper to how to trip plan, how to get from point A to point B efficiently, everything. And then we went out onto the equipment, and we learned from top to bottom, everything from how to make sure to check for your caps on your tires to, a complete meltdown of a truck, and what to do when you get there. And then of course, drive the truck, right? Everybody can drive forward, but learning how to drive backwards is where it's at.
Right. That's one thing that sometimes is lost on people outside the industry, and that we have to think about from a recruiting perspective is a highly skilled position. So I grew up in trucking. So my whole family drove truck, and it became, part of growing up for me. And I always remember my father and my uncles when they would see another driver back into a place that was very difficult, or just manage through traffic and be able to park in city, things, and they were amazed at how some of these people could maneuver those
and to
large
see a driver
vehicles.
get out and say, hey, well done, especially to a younger driver, like, hey,
right.
Well done, young buck.
Yep.
Good job. Way to take your time and get out and look.
Because it is highly skilled, and you do have to commit time and resources to become a good driver. So it's interesting that you feel the same way, because I grew up in trucking, so it's.
My uncles, they all did hot shots. They all pulled cars and did cross-country hot rods. And they did a bunch of that stuff growing up. And so I lived around 57 Bel Airs, and I lived around, Novas and things, watching them pull them across and restore them. But at a small, like F250, F350. So it's just a different beast. Then now I'm hopping into 80,000 pounds of equipment and trying to back it into a 12-foot slot.
It's pretty intense. So you feel, based on your experience, that CDL school experience is highly supportive. They do a great job of preparing you to go onto the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
That transition period that you experience, this is really an opportunity for other people to come through that program, so that when they come out, they feel like they're ready.
And then the availability is near limitless. I get out of the military on February 27th, and I was in class March 3rd. So every Monday, it's there, and we're across the country. And there are plenty of programs out there, and I can speak to mine and to ours. But, a class that starts every Monday that's based around my needs. They take terminal leave. They take the veterans moving from this place to this place for their final move. They take all that into account. They line it up. They schedule with you, and they make sure that you're taken care of. And then, you can always come back. You're going to, you finish the course. It's a couple months down the road. I got to get my life set up. I'm not going to be a driver right now, but I will be eventually. I'm rusty. I just learned this skill.
Right. So you can come back for a refresher.
Yeah, I get a refresher course. I got a job lined up. I just reach out to my class manager or the program manager and say, hey, I'm about to get a job. It's been 2-3 months since I touched a tractor. I need to brush some of this rust off.
So for somebody seeing this today who are not aware of the opportunity, how do they find this opportunity? You say classes start every Monday.
Yeah.
Where do you look?
Troopsintotransportation.com is probably the easiest way. And you can get led to the civilian side, CDL schools, or you can get led to the veteran side, the Troops into Transportation. And it'll line you up for your local campus, your local representatives, who to call, who to get lined up with, your VA rep. It'll do it all for you.
We're pretty excited about the program here at TransForce. So back to you and your experience and your path. You were at the CDL schools. How did you transition from there to what you're currently doing here?
So I became an instructor, and then COVID hit. I was an instructor for almost 3 years, out on the platform teaching and doing it all out in the heat and the weather and doing it all. And then COVID hit. And then it's like, okay, well, life can't stop. So I developed an online course, teledelivery is what we called it. And it is the first 2 weeks is online instead of in the classroom, so that we didn't have to slow down. And then, of course, we took the COVID precautions when it was time to be in the truck. But we developed an entire course so that they can do it from their house, from the couch, in the comfort and the safety of their own home during the tumultuous COVID era that was new to everybody. So we prepared for that. It was an overnight, let's get DOT certified. Let's get VA certified. Let's make it happen. And so every troop was able to come through class regardless.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's continued.
It is. It is still in place today. There are some different, they have to be in the classroom, but the instructor can be anywhere. So they're getting this live presentation from anywhere in the world, essentially, where they're getting their instructor that's coming to them and bringing their experience and bringing the curriculum to them so that they can be in the course no matter where they're at.
And how about your current role? What are your current responsibilities where you sit today?
So right now I'm a director, a regional director for the Southeast of all of Georgia and Florida, and all of our veterans. We call it DCP, driver career placements, and that's all our entry level. Not only veterans, but entry level as a whole for TransForce. Well. Yeah, absolutely, for TransForce as a whole. And so I'm trying to grow the market so that we have more opportunities for everybody in the Southeast.
So you're in a unique position in your market, and that you see both sides, the carrier side and the driver side, because that's essentially at TransForce. What we do is connect the two, and we make that market. What are some of the things that you face each day in managing that relationship with both the carriers and the drivers?
I think the biggest thing that we have to do here in my market is control the flex. We have a lot of flex, a lot of, hey, I need a driver, or hey, can you send me somebody? So I have to keep the team motivated to stay on it, because also they're saying, hey, I don't need it anymore. And it could be an hour, 2 hour difference in emails or a phone call. Hey, I thought I needed somebody, but my driver actually isn't sick. He's coming to work. So I have to keep the team and the driver's attention span.
So when you bring drivers into this dynamic, you have to be clear on, hey, this is how this market is operating. There's a lot of flex work. You have to be flexible. So to set those expectations up front to make sure that they're aware of what they're getting into. And I think if you do that up front through the recruiting process and the onboarding process, retention becomes better.
Absolutely.
We talked a lot about this program, transparency. And in the recruiting process, making sure that all of those boxes are checked, that you're communicating what the actual role is. And I'm sure you've experienced different things, maybe not in your control, but out of your control, where drivers have come in and they haven't had those expectations. And that just has led to problems, and they don't tend to stick around. How do you think about, as this is a driver recruiting focus, how do you think about recruiting in this market for flex positions? Does it differ?
It does a lot. We actually ingrained it into the interview process. Hey, are you willing to touch freight? That's, the first three questions. Are you willing to touch freight? Are you willing to have multiple assignments per week? And are you willing to work nights? Like if any of those are no, we're not the place for you.
Because flex is not just, you're in one job Monday, Tuesday, and then a different one Thursday, Friday. To your point, the requirements of those jobs are different.
Right.
So it's a night shift. It's different shifts. It's different touch levels. There's different requirements as well. So do those flex drivers have to have more requirements as far as experience, tanker, hazmat, flatbed?
They do. And they
that.
used to get paid more for it because it's a, hey, you last minute thing. Hey, I'll pay you $5 more than the market average because I need you today and only today. And I need you to have touch this freight. I need you to have those endorsements. I need you to have the credentials, the background, 2 years of experience in this type of work. And so when that driver says, I'm ready to go do that, they've got to have all those things. And we're going to make sure they get paid for their experience and their credentials. But it may be 2 days this week and that company doesn't call back again for another 3 weeks.
What do you think in this market? Why is there so much flex work? Any idea compared to other regions? And
I think it's the environment here in general because we have so many ports and we have so many rails coming in and out. I think the type of freight differs so much. And then we're the tip of the iceberg down here. So everything's coming in through here first in a lot of cases. So I think the needs are day to day, just like the freight is different day to day.
What about next steps for you? You want to talk about
I got to get my boss promoted first. I've hit my head on the ceiling for what I can right now.
Yeah, but you've transitioned. Your transitions haven't been always up or sideways. They've been to much different roles.
Yeah, I was blessed. I didn't mention that I was actually a recruiter here for a couple months.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let's get this out.
So after becoming the online teledelivery instructor and talking to Al and begging him to put me on and give me an opportunity, then we started doing the online briefs. Giovanni and Katie Morgan started coming on and briefing TransForce to the CDL school and the troops and the transportation drivers. And they would come in and they would do their pitch and they would do their marketing and they would say, hey, we're awesome. And we would love to have the opportunity to employ you. And so I felt that I had hit my head on the ceiling there at the CDL school. I was a national training manager. I was the quality assurance guy. I'd hit my head. And so Giovanni was coming on routinely, weekly. And I was like, you know what? There's something more. There's something bigger. And I know that TransForce had just recently acquired the CDL schools a year or two before. And I said, that's what's next. That's what's next. So I, off to the side, was like, Giovanni, we should talk. Here's my personal cell phone. Yep. And I managed to get on with Giovanni, and he pulled me over, and we started taking over the military aspect and trying to grow DCP, the driver careers, the entry level and veterans. And it grew from there. So I was a recruiter for 6 months. Okay. And I went from recruiter to director.
How was that experience as a recruiter? I think there's a lot of value in being on the road, experiencing.
It's the base.
What it is.
If you can bring that to the table, it changes the game. Not to toot a horn, but I was the company leading recruiter for 6 months that I was a recruiter.
And they let you stop and do something else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And it fell into my lap. I don't know if it was the right time. I appreciate it and I hope I've lived up to it. But
so you've been a recruiter, you've seen this transition from military into the CDL schools. Talk about some of the benefits over and above just getting your CDL license that we offer.
So I was able to take advantage of our apprenticeship program through the VA. It comes out of your post 9/11 or your Montgomery GI Bill. but it pays out housing allowance every month because it's a trade. So while you're becoming better at your trade as an apprentice, you get paid to help cover some of those bills, and the VA takes care of you in that way. And based off of our home address in Alexandria, Virginia, it's over $2,000 extra a month. And it's tax-free, straight to your bank account first of the month while you're being trained and while you're going through your apprentice program or through your term of learning how to be a professional truck driver. And on top of that, we also offer TransForce tuition reimbursement. So we'll pay $100 a week every week that you're working a full-time assignment. We'll pay you an extra $100. And for the duration of that, it's thousands of dollars over the first 6 months of your employment.
So you've transitioned into different roles based on the opportunities that you've seen. The industry is so large and there's so much opportunity. It's so interesting in that sense. And there's so many different things to do. You could be running your own podcast. There's so much opportunity, but you've had quite an experience in the path to where you are here. Is there more to do in your current role? What more do you want to do? And then outside of this role, where do you see yourself going next?
Well, I definitely want to hit the goals that we've set as a company, as I have for myself, before I'd ever walk away to something new. I never want to leave something undone, but I could truly see myself and look forward to an opportunity to where I can sell more troops. And I don't mean sell them like that. I mean to advertise and to market troops and their value to a company. And I want to go and seek more opportunities on the veteran and the entry level side. I think there is a sole responsibility that could be a lot of focus on it. Like I want to go and I want to get jobs and opportunities. I want to market to these companies. I want to talk to company writers and covenants and all these places that are timid or don't know reasons why, and show them, hey, it's not only cheaper to hire a veteran, it's going to cost you less in the long run because they're entry level. They know they're entry level. They come with benefits. They come with history. They come with determination. They come with discipline, which is huge. You can't teach discipline, right? You can ingrain it into somebody over time, but you can't break somebody down overnight. And that takes time. But that comes with business advantages, right? If I know I have a driver who's going to show up at the right place, the right time, in the right uniform, with the right attitude,
I've already won. Value in that.
I've already won. Right now, if I can get 20 of those or 200 of those or 2,000 of those, now my company is going to change drastically.
And we talk about the driver shortage in this program too. And, it's not about always just finding a driver. It's finding a quality driver who you can rely on is really an important asset for every company. And to be able to do that and produce that and speak for that program, I think it's exciting.
It is.
And, you don't like to sign up for more work, but I think you just did.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to see this podcast.
And you know what? For the opportunities that could be, it's worth it. It really is. Even if it's an additional, a new opportunity, an additional task or taking on, so be it. For an entry level, somebody getting a chance, for a troop getting a transition into the real world on solid ground, so be it. I'll do whatever it takes.
And I think you're probably well positioned. You're very credible because you've been through the experience. You know what it's like to transition into a new role. It's not easy. I think the important part is to feel like you are supported and the opportunity is legitimate and that you can rely on it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been great.
Yes, sir.
I know it was over and above what you expected to do today. So I thank you for spending time.
Most definitely.
I think you're awesome.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.